Hola, bienvenidos a Naxos, esto es música clásica. Hoy vamos a estar hablando con la directora de orquesta Sebrina Alfonso sobre la nueva grabación Naxos con obras del compositor americano John Gottsch. John Gottsch nació en Nueva Orleans en 1950 y pasó toda su juventud en los lagos de Florida, nadando y sobre todo prestando atención a los caimanes. Esta comunión con la vida silvestre marcó profundamente sus obras y las obras que se presentan en esta grabación, Sunset, compuesta en el 2017, y La princesa Yurevskaya, compuesta en el 2018, son un fiel reflejo del estilo de composición. Para hablarnos acerca de esta grabación tuve el placer de realizar una entrevista a la directora de la Orquesta Sinfónica de South Florida, Sebrina Alfonso, y aquí va su presentación personal y también sus impresiones de lo que representa para una mujer dirigir una orquesta, una función que tradicionalmente es reservada para los hombres.
I'm Sebrina Alfonso, and I'm music director at this time of the South Florida Symphony Orchestra, and we perform in Fort Lauderdale, in Miami, and Key West. I am actually from Key West, Florida. I'm a sixth-generation conch. Both sides of my family are of Cuban descent. However, when I was growing up in Key West, and this isn't a good excuse, but we really weren't allowed to speak Spanish in the schools because of the Navy kids. And so it wasn't spoken in my house. I think for me, from my generation, it's been the same two female conductors that have been in the forefront. I mean, all my years. And I do see younger conductors coming up, which is great for me to see. Most of my career, it was honestly, and it's kind of sad, but I think that you will understand when I say this, it was men that helped me in any way. The women would not, because they still felt like, well, I mean, a good example, I was in the competition, the Stokowski competition years ago, and I was one of the winners. And so I was speaking with management, because I was interviewing with several management after the competition, because usually you get management. And I was speaking to a woman manager, and at the time, Long Island Phil was looking for a music director, and I had asked her if she would help me, audition for, apply for that. And the conductor that was leaving was a female, and she said, well, they've already had their woman. They're not going to want another one. And I was very shocked, and I looked at her and said, do you hear what you just said? And she said, oh yeah. And she goes, but it's true. So when women, women, sometimes we can be our own worst enemies. So I feel like that those have been the biggest roadblocks for me over the years. Not so much women, but the fact is that the world of conductors, they just didn't want to open the doors. I mean, the doors, okay, we'll allow these two from New York, and but that said, the world is changing, thankfully. And I think that young women are actually, they're more, and they're more about other women. They feel women power. They feel, women stick together, more can be accomplished. And they're showing it by doing things and showing the results. So I think that that's going to change. You're going to see that in the next 10, 20 years. And the reality is that most of my career, anything that I did as a job, I created. I created the South Florida Symphony. It used to be Key West Symphony, and then I moved it up to the mainland. I created orchestras. In fact, I became well known. I went to school at Peabody Conservatory to get my, I went for my doctorate in conducting there, and I started becoming very well known around Maryland as a person that can come in, start an orchestra, or take your orchestra to the next level, because I wasn't getting the opportunities to audition even. I couldn't even get the auditions. So most of my career has been creating my own way. And that's okay. It's a bit frustrating, like everyone, you want some kind of, ability to just conduct. I had to do so many other things, but in the end, I'm so proud of what we're doing here in South Florida and the outreach that we're doing, and the people, that we're not just reaching adults, we're reaching children, we're reaching people who might not have been exposed. In South Florida, there was a major orchestra called the Florida Phil that went under, I don't know, 20 some years ago. So there's literally two generations of people that, young people that came up in school without a major orchestra, in the community that could do the kind of education and outreach that orchestras are expected to do. I always consider the orchestra as the leading arm of the landscape, the leading arm in the landscape of cultural arts, because we're really the only organization who can perform, and that we don't need other organizations. Opera needs an orchestra, ballet needs an orchestra, musicals need orchestras, but we don't need any of them. We can perform. So I think it's just expected that we do most of the education, because financially it really is, more feasible than trying to put together operas or ballet. Although I have to say that the opera here and the ballet, and they're both, excellent groups, they do a lot of outreach, and we're hoping that we can do some, in the future with them.
Ya que tengo esta oportunidad de poder realizar una entrevista a una directora de orquesta mujer, le quise preguntar a Sebrina Alfonso si para ella había alguna diferencia entre la forma de encarar una obra entre un director hombre y una directora mujer. Y vean lo que me respondió.
That's a very good question. And, it's always females, we're always trying to be careful what we say, but I'm at the age that I'm going to say whatever, because it doesn't matter anymore. I'm not, I mean, I've lived a lot, I've lived it, and I know what's my truth. Okay, I'm telling you my truth, not necessarily everyone's truth. I do feel um, over the years that things had happened, and in the orchestra or with other musicians, that I would sometimes look at a musician when they'd say something or do something and think, you would never do that if I was a man. And I know that that's true because I've been around long enough. I've never seen that kind of stuff happen. Um, also, uh, I think as far as conducting and interpretation, I'm as a female, I'm not worried about my, any of I don't have that masculine ego thing where a man maybe, can't approach it as emotionally, let's say, as a female. I can't imagine doing it any other way. I mean, I can't, if I just stand up there and do my arms, just sit there and go 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't even know that I could keep the time, because if you're not feeling it and emotionally connecting to it and then having it go through your whole body. I mean, that's why, people always say I dance, and it's like, it's not that I'm dancing. It's that's just the rhythm of the music, and it's in me. And I have to move. If I don't move, I don't know that I could keep the rhythm, and rhythm is the most important thing, and that everything else grows through that. So, yeah, I think so. You'd have to, I mean, a man might totally disagree, but I feel as a woman, that I have almost like an advantage, because I think we come at it much more emotionally right from the start. And even when I study, I the notes are all great, and when when I first started, so boring. But boy, when you get to a certain point, it's like the light turns on, and you start to feel things switch, and you start to feel what the piece is about. That's when I get really excited. I don't get excited doing the theory of the piece. Ugh. Whereas I think men might enjoy that more than I do. And not that, I mean, it's a necessity, but I want to get to the meat of the piece. I want to get to the story. I want to get to the emotion. I want to get just to the rawness of it. And I kind of feel like that could be an advantage, only because also I wasn't taught to hold my emotions. We weren't taught to hold it down, so, it's all about life. How were you taught to be? And I do think that women do have probably an advantage, but there's that huge disadvantage of the fact that uh, men have a hard time still working for women, and women still have a hard time working for women. You have to be, it's still a world where a woman has to be better than the male counterpart. A male, I could be at a certain level, but a male that's not at the same level as me can be hired over me. And I'm aware of that. And so, all that still goes on, but I do feel, just because I want to have hope, I do feel it's changing. And I think as more women, have higher positions in the world, that's all going to just go by the wayside. And, kids are coming up with a lot of women that are authority figures, and that just changes it. And so I do think that it's getting there. Now, as far as the orchestra and auditions, because auditions are done usually behind a screen, the orchestra actually is actually more equal in hiring. And so if you go look at orchestras now that have had a lot of turnover, more women are winning the jobs. And that's, because they do it behind the screen. And the only time that the whoever's judging sees the musicians are in the finals, because you got to have some feel of the person, and you do need to talk to them. And that's usually when the music director comes in as well. And the music director will give direction to see if they can follow their his or her interpretation, and if they do it willingly. We had a woman that was so qualified to be the president, more qualified than any man who ever ran, and they wouldn't pick her. So it's still, I feel like in the whole world of business and arts, it's still the same. And you know, but it's getting there. And I think women are speaking up and are not allowing this to keep going in this direction. And young men as well. I mean, it's not just women marching, it's everyone. So
En esta grabación se presentan dos obras de John Gottsch y la primera que Sebrina nos comenta es The Sunset, una obra que escribiera en el 2017. Y esto fue lo que me dijo.
The lovely thing about the Sunset is it is about South Florida and the Keys and all of the different aspects to it. You know, each movement sort of has something to do. Really, it's about the coral reef. You know, it's about the reef around the islands and what the hustle and bustle of what goes on in the reefs between the marine mammal, between the birds, people, and the way that he writes it, you can really visualize it. And John Gottsch is actually quite a famous doctor who works out of Johns Hopkins, and he's been composing probably most of his life. And he has a house in Key West, so he goes back and forth, he and his wife, and he loves Key West, and he, like the rest of us, he wants to protect the coral reefs and the water. And so that sort of inspired him to write that piece. And the thing I also enjoy about his music, for instance, Sunset, it's not really a difficult piece. It's not as difficult as the Princess Yurskaya. But what finally happened, when I tell you I'm studying a piece and when it finally something clicks, what I enjoyed about the Sunset was there was just this sort of rhythm that once I realized the piece, this rhythm throughout, and if you capture that in the music, you can really feel it. Once the orchestra and we kind of got that together, you really could feel it, and I thought it was a really successful recording because of that.
La segunda obra de esta grabación es un extenso poema sinfónico que John Gottsch compuso inspirado en la historia de la princesa Yurevskaya, quien fuera la amante del zar de Rusia, Alexander II, y que más tarde se convirtiera en su mujer cuando la emperatriz muriera en 1881. Y esto es lo que Sebrina Alfonso nos comenta acerca de esta particular obra de John Gottsch y lo que representa para ella dirigir obras de compositores contemporáneos y del desafío técnico que presenta esta tarea de divulgación de nuevas obras, y esto fue lo que nos dijo.
Now, the Princess Yurskaya is totally different piece, and it was inspired by, I guess, some book he was reading about Tsar Alexander II, and then this Catherine, the princess, who eventually becomes Princess Yurskaya because she really was his mistress. When his wife died, he finally could marry her, make her kids legitimate, and that's when she became a princess. But this piece is really like Scheherazade, Strauss tone poems. He takes the violin, and has the violin is her, Catherine, and the cello is Tsar Alexander, and there's also a harp solo. So this piece, not only does it have some complicated passages for the orchestra, but it's really almost like a concerto as well, because the solo piece, the solo parts are kind of amazing. And our concert master Hui Fang Chen, and our principal cello David Calhoun play those parts, but it also has a difficult harp part. Li Fei Chen, who is our harpist, who is in this. So this piece is a story. It's literally a story about the love of these two people, during the times where he's being assassinated, and the crowd, it's things are going on, wars are going on, people are unsettled. Something that just keeps happening over and over, and in the end he dies, and because because the people were unhappy with what was going on, and he was going to do some parade, and she kept asking him not to, but he did it anyway, and the bombs were being hurled at him, and he in the end, they bring him back to the palace, and she just sort of falls on him because they were really a true love. Their love was very, very passionate. And there's like lovemaking and everything in this music. I mean, it's like a whole story. And I didn't know if I was going to talk about that or not, but that's part of it for him, is their passion for each other. And how how they met, where he met her at sort of a school for women that have to learn how to be, ladies. And he was smitten by her. And, they eventually, like I said, they had an affair, but they were very much in love. And this piece is about, I guess it's about 35 minutes. So it's a major piece. And actually, because of the COVID, we didn't have the opportunity to perform it. So we had to do rehearsals, and then we recorded it. So we're going to premiere it, do the world premiere this season, this upcoming season, 21-22. So it's wonderful that the recordings will be out, and we'll be able to promote it, and sell the CDs and whatever, however it's always how it's going to be sold. But I'm very proud. I thought the orchestra did a very good job, and John seemed very happy for the outcome of the recording. And again, this is John is someone that I've become friends with, and if I were to say anything about him and his music, is what I love about his music is it is John. He's a very kind soul. He's a sort of passionate and very intelligent, and you just kind of can feel that soul in the music. So it makes it important to do this. And I am of a mind of always trying to promote and perform new music. My orchestra loves it, because the reality is you don't grow if you keep playing the same thing over and over. It's like anything. If you don't try new things, then you don't get better at the older things. You get better as you grow. I mean, I remember as a young conductor conducting a piece like Stravinsky Rite of Spring or the Bernstein Serenade. I used to think these pieces were impossible, and had to study so hard. And then I've done them again, in the future. And I was like, what did I think was so hard about this? It's not that hard, but it was new in comparison to a lot of the things that we were doing. So, and now some of the new music is even the reason that Bernstein music or Stravinsky music isn't hard for us anymore is because the music that's being written now is even harder. And it's opening more doors, and it's growing in what you can do musically. So, all of this always expands and gives the opportunity for music to go in different directions. And, also, for us to start exploring, this next season, we're hoping to do some music for, justice and peace, having to do with Black Lives Matter. We also want to do concert of Latin music because it's a big Latin community here. We're trying to be more diverse because there's so much music written now, in all these genres that, we need to present that. So, we're real happy that we're able to do that, and that we're hopefully opening doors for young and up and coming composers, soloists. We're going to be working with the Sphinx Foundation, which is a competition for African-American and Latino musicians. And they've been around for a while, and I conducted them years ago, and they're really doing a fabulous job for their musicians, their winners. And we've been in conversations with them and putting in grants on how we can also work with them to encourage, their musicians, to give them opportunities for solo, for orchestra, chamber music, and for them to mentor other young musicians. So, performing and performing other works or with other, musicians of other ethnic genre is what we're trying to be, not just, and to do the masterworks, the great masters. But, there's music out there that needs to become part of the great masters, right? And that's not just European. And so, hopefully we'll be able to do that. You know what is special about our orchestra is that they are like me. They like to get into the soul of the music. I mean, if you ever see a video of us, I mean, everybody moving together, and you know, they're excited about the music. Most of them are excellent. You know, they're excellent musicians. They're proud of their virtuosity, and they bring it together. And when they get together, they're happy to see each other. It's a very, I think I will say this, and I think I can say this over many groups. It's a very positive orchestra. It's a friendly orchestra, and it's a passionate group. You know, they come in and you know, the minute everybody comes together, it's like everybody just starts smiling, and you just start feeling, and everybody's eager to get together. And we've really done some great things, and they're eager to get out and do outreach. They love working with the kids. They love going into neighborhoods where people don't get the opportunity to hear orchestras, and they do it. And they're constantly calling me saying, are you doing anything? You know, do you need me to do any of these things? Because they feel it's important for them to do as well, not just the organization, but that they should be out there, you know, sharing their talent. So I'm very proud of this group, and looking forward. You know, we did our concerts this year. We as a group were together, and we did all of the safety precautions, and nobody caught it while we were together. And we put our concerts virtual. But every time they all got together, it was like everybody just wanted to hug and, you know, to just, you know, touch each other, and we knew we couldn't. But you know, everyone's like, have you sent the contracts? Because they're ready to go. They're ready to start, and because we're going live next season. And you know, and I'm still being very careful. If I feel that all our musicians have not had their vaccines, although I think in Florida most everyone will be done, because everybody's can get their vaccines now. But I was still thinking about it today. Are we going to wear masks? I don't know. You know, I'm going to do whatever I think is safe. I may not make them, I may not make them sit 6 feet apart, but I may say we should wear masks. I'm thinking not. Right now, I don't think we will. But, you know, I'm thinking of myself as well. Like, do I feel comfortable? Because even though, you know, you're vaccinated and you're supposedly immune, you're so used to having the mask on that, you know, think of all the other things we didn't catch this year because we wore a mask. I mean, I haven't had a cold. Nobody in my family has had a flu. Nothing. Nobody's been sick. And, you know, it's kind of like, well, gee, I don't want to get those things in the future. Maybe I'll just wear a mask. But, you know, you have to get back to normal. So, you know, I'm very proud, and I feel that South Florida is lucky to have the South Florida Symphony, because they have musicians who love it here and want to make it a great community of the arts.
Un fuerte agradecimiento a Sebrina Alfonso por esta entrevista concedida, y para más información acerca de esta grabación los invito a consultar nuestra página web www.naxosenespañol.com. No nos dejen de seguir por nuestras redes sociales y los espero en otro podcast de Naxos. Esto es música clásica. Chao.